Welcome to Celebrate a Sister podcast. I'm your host, Emma Walkinshaw. I'm a transformational coach. I'm also the founder of Embody Me program and the creator of 21 Minutes of Morning Magic. You may also find me on the yoga mat leading yoga sessions and also running retreats here in Australia and internationally. Here on the podcast, I bring you some pretty incredible guests. We talk all things self-belief, body acceptance, personal development, outdated beauty standards, and we also call BS on the toxic diet culture, accepting the beautiful bodies we were born into, letting go of all the beliefs, and raising our self-awareness. I also come to you from time to time with a little solo episode, a little Life According to Emma moment. I'm so glad you're here. Enjoy. A big warm welcome to the Celebrate a Sister podcast. Today I have the beautiful Julie Tenner. Julie is a visionary author, speaker, facilitator, relationship and intimacy coach, here to revolutionize the way you love. Based in Seaford, Victoria, and offering expansive experiences both online and in person, Julie seeks to unshackle modern women from cycles of self-sabotage so they can embrace desire and get more curious, connected, and alive in themselves and their relationships. Julie's lifelong connection to spirituality began with her yogi father, who instilled in her a deep respect for power of Eros and our personal connection to pleasure. Julie believes this secret ingredient, often overlooked in our busy lives, is essential for fulfilling a joyful existence. Welcome, Julie.
Oh, thank you so much, Emma. Thanks for letting me be in your magnificent space and in the ears of your magnificent listeners. Thank you.
Such an honour and pleasure. Just before we hit record, I did say to Julie that I have been a lover of her work and following her for quite some time. I actually listened to your book, Flowers and Honey, The Art of Relationship, Love and Desire, because your voice is so beautiful and so velvety. It was just beautiful to listen to. And your use of words and vocabulary was just, it was like I was on this beautiful, you were telling me a story. It was like really being, I guess, the art of storytelling. That's what it felt like for me, your beautiful book. So when did you write that book?
I'm so happy to hear that. That is so beautiful. Oh, that book was a whole story. Actually, the book that is published was not the book that I originally wrote. We'll sidetrack because this is a whole thing. That book that's published, I ended up writing in 3 days.
Really?
Yeah. After having spent, it was the middle of COVID. It was the start of COVID even. And I just went, no, I felt this book in me. And I'm a busy mum of 4 kids. And back then my youngest was like a toddler. And so daytime I could not write. So I would get up at 4 a.m. So I would write between 4 and 6 every single morning. And I did that for a solid month and came up with this draft of what was the original book. And then went through all of the processes of all of the different things that you go through in publishing a book. And I got to the very last editor and she fucking hated it. Oh, sorry, am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
Go for it. Yes, that was warranted. That was warranted. Tell me.
Tore it to pieces. And I remember getting it back thinking, and my husband and I, we're looking at her comments and she just argued every single paragraph. And ultimately, in the end, my husband goes, is this what an edit like this is? Because I'd never done it before. And I'm like, I don't know. Is it? I don't know. And in the end, then he said, maybe this is good, because instead of getting stuck in it. And all of a sudden I saw that kind of round table council and, you're going for the presidential election. Well, who you're going to have on that council are the people that are going to throw the stuff at you so that you can get fluid with what really is, who am I? What really is my message? What really am I here for, and what am I going to say, and how do I answer your if, buts, and maybes, because that's more important than just delivering something the way that I want to deliver it. And I was like, yes. So I moved from this state of just being terrified and angry into like, oh, I'm so grateful. Yes, let's go. And so I said to him I had to have this done. This was supposed to be the very last edit for it to be published on the Monday, and this was the Friday. And all week he was like, just stick with it, Jules, don't change it, just stick with it. And I'm going, but I think I need to, because the choice was, I realized the book I had originally written was incredibly poetic and spiritual. It was more like a, I don't know, scripture of some sort, more for the yogis in the world, I think, more than really who my audience is, you know, to some extent, those who are already on a spiritual path already have so much information that they can transform their lives with. And I always have entered this world knowing, yes, they're my people, but they're not the ones that I know my soul is here to help. The ones that my soul is here to help are the ones who don't know what they don't know yet and don't know how to access it, or are stuck because that looks like a certain person that they don't identify with. So, and I could see that's who this editor was. She was the hyper-masculinized, super-duper career woman, always in control, lives in her head. She was my woman. And I had to decide, was this book, was I writing it for the already in contact with their feminine yogis, or was I writing it for the hardened, exhausted, don't know women? And I got to Friday morning and I said, listen, I've got to do it, but I can't do it if I've got a life and mother. Like, I have to just write. So that means you're on. And he was like, let's go. So I literally slept and wrote, and he would bring me food and take away food, kept all of the kids away from me. And I wrote it in 3 days. And that's the book that's published.
Wow. If that's not a divine assignment and taking the game on, taking the assignment, seeing the assignment through the eyes of the woman that really you're writing it for.
Yeah.
Not choosing not to be offended.
Yeah.
Taking the lesson and let's go.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I basically just, collated all of her all of the triggers that she had from what I was saying, which I completely actually understand. The first time, if you're living in that state, the first time you hear about feminine energy and the divine feminine and softening and surrender, it can feel really jarring, and it can come up against feminist ideals when it's not well integrated. And, you know, that's what I could see was happening. So I hope that's what my book answers.
Oh my gosh, it's a tremendous book. So to all of the listeners today, pretty please, if you're a reader, I get it, get the physical book. But if you want to listen to Julie's gorgeous velvety voice and the vocabulary and the expression, I also really enjoyed how you shared a lot from real women. You know, you would say their name and what they had experienced, because they are the voices that are speaking for all of us.
Totally. And it really, I'm sure you notice in your work too, the more we hear the stories of women, the more we realize, oh, this is a collective experience. I'm not alone in it.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I also really love how you look at the construct and explore around femininity. I can't say the word. Just say that fast 3 times.
Feminine energy.
That's the one. We're just going to say feminine energy, or honey. I need to say honey energy.
Yeah.
Flower energy.
You're the flower. It's the honey. Yeah. Well done.
So even looking at the whole grandmother and mother in our life, and what we, I loved that bit when you were even speaking in the book about what we'd witnessed in seeing relationships in our life, and hearing from the women saying that, well, I actually had never witnessed a healthy relationship. And then, all ones that I did, they were bickering and they weren't in harmony. So that was also, when I was listening to that, I was identifying with it. All of the relationships that I'd witnessed, the ones close to me, grandparents, parents, aunties and uncles, and thinking, gosh, what was my messaging? It really gets you start to think. And then how what have I taken and what have I not taken? What do I do in my marriage? What don't I do in my marriage? Yeah, it was
What
really
interesting questions to ask, aren't they?
very good questions to ask.
Did
Really
it bring
enjoyed.
you insights? Did you find yourself reflecting, going, oh my goodness?
Yeah, and I had a memory I was thinking about. I went to, one of those first memories when you have a sleepover at someone's house?
And you witness the relationships of friends, parents. Yes. Just as
Yeah.
informative, actually, it turns out. Yeah.
Very informative. And funnily enough, I remember I can right now visually, third eye, I can see that whole experience. And it was a very positive experience. And I can remember her parents witnessing, seeing them connecting, and not in a weird way, but in a very beautiful way, like acknowledging each other. And me thinking, oh, that is so lovely. And we all sat down at the dinner. And I'm from a family of, I say, like my father is technically an alcoholic, but a non-practicing one. So he does not drink. And I remember, so I grew up with no alcohol in the house. There was no alcohol as I grew up, which was wonderful, whatever, neutral. I'm quite neutral around it now. So I look at, the memory was I seen her parents sitting having dinner and having a glass of wine together, which was such a foreign thing to me because that was not in my house. And contrary, I'd always been told that alcohol is really bad. So to actually see two people that were married having a glass of wine was like, oh, it was really a really lovely experience. So yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah. So witnessing relationships. Yeah. Really
And how
fascinating.
interesting, I always think, for any of us in our mothering as well, is don't underestimate the environment that you create and the relationships that you embody that can be literal medicine and information and have a lifelong impact on anyone that walks into your home. Like, how extraordinary that mothering force or that capacity to help another human can just be in your beingness and in your home. Like, it's so beautiful. What a reminder.
So beautiful. I always love the saying that the mother is the heart of the house. When she beats, she gives life force and flow to everyone. And of course the father is too, or the significant other, the other parent, but it is beautiful to think that way. And you're right. You have got that impact when someone enters into your house as the mother, as the woman, you have got, and you don't even realize from, the way that you furniture or you decorate or your warmth or whatever it is you bring or
Your
you have
energy
created.
turns out.
Energy, yes.
Yes. Your space bubble, your environment. And I mean, you just so beautifully highlighted all of that I would say is representative of the feminine energy. So clearly you also have a deep appreciation for the feminine, whether that's a language that you or any of your listeners have used. It's that idea of the feminine is so exquisitely sensitive to energy. So what's on the walls and what are the colors and what are the textures and what's the furnishing and what's the vibe and how does it feel in this space and what type of lighting and, wine that tastes like this and food that looks like that. And we sat down in company and it's like this more and energy that turns the dial up and I feel something and I feel great when I feel something. And then I'm in that environment and then I realize what a power center I am. That just by having this vibe that I maintain and I hold and I feed, that's an extension of me, people are changed by being in that. That's the feminine.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And I think it's really acknowledging that, isn't it? And owning that and celebrating that.
Yeah, seeing that as the powerhouse that it is, rather than you're somehow pathetic if you pay attention to how things look. Or, vibe. Well, it's just so woo. Like, what does that even mean? And who cares? It's just a very different way of being able to come into appreciation. And I think then into the power that you have to be magnetic and to influence others and influence change just by being the most authentic you. I mean, what a gift.
Such a gift. Julie, can you share a little bit more about, that's an example of that beautiful feminine energy. Can you explain like feminine energy, masculine energy, how, when it's working really well, what that looks like in a relationship and when it's not. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. So let's just start with a really basic. Let's understand that the language is incredibly flawed. Let's just start there, because masculine and feminine are inherently colonialist language. And because of that, I really recognize that they hold within them experiences of oppression and harm, which is why I think it can become very triggering when we use those words. So hence in the book, I use flower for feminine and I use mountain for masculine. But having said that, I'm going to explain to you in a minute, is also flawed. What I would like to just start with is, if feminine and masculine feel great and you identify with it, use it. But if you don't, and that feels like a cage or it feels like a repulsion, then instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because the concepts I think are phenomenally helpful, just change your language around it. So what is it that you identify with it? It's the receiving energy of the feminine or the giving energy of the masculine. That's what my husband likes to use. I've had many women and men use very different language. So the part of me that wants to give, the part of me that wants to receive, the part of me that's like a rock, the part of me that's like an ocean. It doesn't matter what the words are. So I just want to start there with, I'm obviously using feminine and masculine. Sometimes I interchange that with masc and fem, just because that feels a little more gender neutral to me than feminine and masculine. Next part is, when we use the words in energetic terms of feminine and masculine, has nothing to do with gender, has nothing to do with sexuality. So we really want to separate out what we're talking about from anything to do with gender, sexuality. This is all about finding a language that encompasses a way of being a set of traits and attributes that you can identify with and feels powerful for you, whatever that is for you. So when we look at that as an idea, then the theory of it should be that there is a spectrum of energy that we all have within us. And there's different traits, attributes, ways of being and belonging that exist in those two areas. There's like a ruler bar. At one end, down the very end, you've got deeply masculine traits. At one end, on the other end, you've got deeply feminine traits. And of course, you have every shade of that in between those two states, just like a ruler bar, of ombre color. If we look at the masculine traits, attributes, gifts, then they're all of the things that we tend to identify with very easily in our masculine dominated culture and world. So it's everything that exists from the neck up. So it's your head, it's heady stuff, it's logic, it's rationality, it's goal setting, it's big purpose vision. It's like my purpose in the world and how am I getting there and what am I doing to get there and what's the bigger picture? Like where, it's the connection to spirit, to soul, like big, right? Neck up, all of the stuff that exists there. You'd be great at goal setting, you'd be great at task achieving. It doesn't matter how you feel because you got to get the shit done. And you're going to get there. The feminine on the other end is not about the future. The feminine is about right here, right now. So she's everything that has to do, or he, not gendered language, that aspect of us is everything to do with what is unseen. So if the masculine is really seen in a visual, makes sense, is rational, logical, tangible, the feminine is all the unseen, the feeling, the sensuality, so all of the senses. So energy, right? If it has a frequency and you feel it, there's a vibration to it, it's feminine. It changes how you feel. It's intuition, it's emotionality, it's sensitivity to the world. It's being able to feel things that are unseeable, and your connection to that soft, open, receptive connection to all of the energy that exists around you and the interactions of those, right? So two very different ways of being. So that's how I would describe feminine and masculine energies. Now, theoretically, mostly if we consider our grandparents were very stereotypical in the way that they were raised. They then gave birth to the next generation that kind of in a way flipped that on its head. So it did the big pendulum swing. So we went from men being men and women being women, and we could say masculine and feminine existed in those two gendered camps. Then they gave birth to, as always happens generationally, the panacea to that, which was where women started to move into the workforce and empower more of their masculine traits, attributes, ways of being to the world, more financial empowerment, more of a voice in the world, more of a taking up the space of the masculine traits. And men some men, like my dad, did the opposite and moved into how do I amplify the feminine traits within me? So my sensitivity, my emotionality, the flower power hippies. How do we be sensitive? How do we be empathetic as men? So we can see that that generation just worked really hard on empowering the opposite traits. They gave birth to us in our generation. And we're somewhat more neutral, but we still find that we can get really stuck in women being hard and having to be better men than men in order to survive in this world. Now, our children, I would say, are doing an even better job of that. And of course, are making everything more neutral again, more flexible, more flexibility and existing more in that middle of the ruler bar rather than so far on either end, which our grandparents did. So there's the place that we exist inherently on that ruler, the place that feels like, oh gosh, when I'm able to be like this and feel like that, I feel so fulfilled. It feels there's nothing missing for me in those moments. And then there's what our life asks us to do, which largely is going to be forsake the feminine. It's not about how you feel. Shut it down, shut it up, sweep it away, close it down, get hard. Go hard or go home, no pain, no gain, get to the goal, do the thing. Who cares about how you feel? You show up, hustle, move forwards, lists, tasks, validation from what can be seen. And this sense of like, oh, I don't know why you'd bother with that. That's not valuable. Like we invisibilize motherhood and we invisibilize the caring roles, or we minimize them still in our culture, the unseen gifts and traits of humanity. So what we can tend to find is that we exist so fully in our masculine that our feminine feels completely squashed and closed up. And then we start to wonder why we feel so hard and exhausted and heartbroken sometimes, and like there's a wall in front of our heart, or we want to be soft, or we want to surrender, we crave to be taken, and yet we can't fucking let go. Can't let go of control. Can't let go of the hardness that's in our body, the tension, don't know how to be vulnerable in a way that feels magnificent, or struggle in the interactions of those places with our partners. So what does it look like in a healthy relating? It would look like generally and unconsciously you're going to attract your equal and opposite anyway. So, the degree to which you're feminine, your partner will be equally masculine. So if I go, let's say we're going to be really basic, I'm 70% feminine and I'm 30% masculine. It means I'll attract a partner who's 70% masculine and 30% feminine. Like we together in union, you create a type of stability and a type of wholeness. And initially, those things will be what you freaking love. You love that, if I'm really masculine in my way of belonging to the world, control, lists, organization, if anyone's going to get something done, I am. And, you love how carefree he is and how much he just goes with the flow. And yeah, we can do whatever you want to do. And, so in the moment until that becomes the very thing you hate. And, or conversely, they really take control and they're, fully in their career and focused and, really, certain in who they are and what their next steps are. And then at some point that becomes the thing you hate too, because there's no flexibility and sensitivity and we can't talk about emotions and, So I think the complexity of human relationships I always find fascinating. So why do I like the understanding of energy and tantric relationships is purely because it's a way to understand yourself. You are able to go, wow, I understand why the lighting or that color is really important to me because it brings me alive. And instead of thinking that that's silly, I can now go, wow, that's really important. And I feel even better when I do those things. Or why do I always wrestle with the part of me that's so full of emotionality? And now I understand why that's important and it allows me to move into it rather than thinking as soon as I'm emotional, I'm like my crazy mother. Or, I just think it's a beautiful way to heal. It's a beautiful way to understand yourself. It's a beautiful way to understand polarity. Because when there's no polarity, when no one's taking up a feminine or a masculine pole, or we're both in only one of those, we don't end up in good places. We end up, friends who can watch Netflix together and there's absolutely no attraction force because there's no spark, right? Spark is like battery, like electricity, like any of our natural laws, like magnetism. It requires one of each to create a force of attraction. And you're the same. When you have one of each of you in a pole, there's attraction. As soon as you become same, neutrality, there's nothing, because there's no spark. You've got two positive batteries or you've got two negative batteries. No one's creating electricity from that place. Or often you're both in your masculine. And so it's like two rams butting heads. But my way is better. I want you to do it my way. But if we did it my way, it would be better. I'm not doing it your way because this is the way it needs to be done. Or we're both in the feminine playing the who has it harder game. And I want you to pay attention to my feelings and how I'm hurting. But I can't do that because I want you to pay attention to mine, and you never pay attention to mine. And we end up like that. So I like it because I find it incredibly powerful in being able to navigate how you want this moment or your relationship to be. And when you want to be best friends and CEOs, bring the neutrality and do it well. And when you know your partner needs listening to, bring your masculine. You're going to do that really well. And when you're ready to be opened and soft and flowing and be the one that, is listened to or can let go, then you know how to do that. Like, I just think it's empowerment, and it gives you the choice point of, now I want to be sexy and full of desire, and now I just want to be best friends, or now I want to be listened to, or now I want to be the listener. And understanding that, I find enormously powerful.
Oh, Julie, that is just beautiful. Thank you for explaining that. As you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, it is a little bit like a dial in your relationship, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it's knowing when to kind of turn it up and turn it down, and what channel to kind of be riding. And that is very much this beautiful little dance you do in your relationship, because you're absolutely right. I would say, if I'm going to be very stereotypical, I am definitely the feminine. Brendan is the masculine. Percentage, that's even interesting to explore what our percentages are. But I also know there's a time when Brendan needs me to soften, and sometimes he needs me to then be the listening ear. And and even the language you used before, which I thought was interesting, like, I will describe him as my rock. And then you said, what was it? Rock, and then ocean. And then even mountain, flower, whatever language. But I understand where we dial that. It doesn't mean Brendan's never ever in that flower and I'm not in that mountain, but we have different times.
Yes,
exactly. I love that.
Yeah.
And that's the tuning of the relationship. And I absolutely see where potentially both in the masculine, or have witnessed, other relationships I've missed too. And it really is like a Mexican standoff.
Yeah, Exactly. And I just love that awareness, because I have a really strong masculine, probably the same as perhaps the majority of your listeners. I'm not sure. Sometimes I think that's the way we're trained. Sometimes I think that's what motherhood does for us. Motherhood is not feminine, it is masculine. Because if you are leading, guiding, in control, in charge, on to the next moment, organizing lists, getting shit done, holding space for other people and their feelings, including little people, you are in your masculine. You're not the one who's the storm. You're the rock. So I also think, the way that
blew my freaking mind then. Motherhood is masculine. You are freaking right, because you are like a goddamn drill sergeant, or our shit does not get done.
Yeah.
You are totally, isn't that, gosh. Okay,
yes,
sorry to interrupt, but that's.
No, exactly. And then we move into the conscious parenting world, where it's all about holding space for the child and for their feelings, which means largely we're shutting ours off in order to do that. Which I totally understand as a conscious parenter and get it, but then we have to understand the cost and have an awareness of how we're balancing the self, rather than becoming so hollowed out in a way that it's all about what is it that my child needs, and there's no acknowledgement of my own needs in that.
Yeah. How can two people, child, mother, be heard and respect, but no one feels like they've been overridden? That's a challenge.
Yeah, it is a challenge.
Is that the right word? Yeah.
Yeah.
Challenge.
I just think we've got to recognize what we're asking ourselves to do every single day. It doesn't matter if you're leading teams at work or projects in your business or little people at home. Like, you are using your masculine all the time. And what you practice, you become profoundly good at. So you're just really well practiced at your masculine, which is amazing. It's going to help you kill it at work and career and probably family inc.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be the skill set that brings you alive, that makes you remember why the fuck you're here and why you want to be, what you're, deeply in devotion to, the softness and the capacity you have to be the vibe or the temperature of the room that everyone is magnetized to and wants to be around. It's not going to help you create passion, and it's not going to help you create desire. So we just have to see it's a different skill, and you get to choose to practice it or not. Like, live your best life, but don't cage yourself in only a masculine way of being and belonging and then say it's everyone else's fault.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It brings me to a friend that relationship broke down, and she won't mind me sharing this because we've talked about this openly before. But I remember when she was on the dating scene and doing the Tinder thing, and she kept saying, I get to these dates and he just starts, pouring out his whole life story. I said to her, well, stop going in as the life coach. Go in as yourself. And I said, stop going in as Oprah Winfrey. I said, Oprah Winfrey does not put on sexy. I said, you need to generate Nigella Lawson. You go in as Nigella Lawson. You bring the sensualness.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And she said, you're right. I said, so you bloody get your red lipstick on and you bloody rock that beautiful hair and you get in there, but do not go in as Oprah. Because the minute you set that tone for him and do the Oprah life coach thing, of course he's going to, and probably because maybe no one has actually done that for him in a long time, or maybe he does need some healing, whatever else. I said, you go in as Nigella. So it exactly is about adjusting.
Yeah. Yes, what are you bringing into that moment will change the moment. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And even when thinking about, us who are exactly like you say, particularly when you're in that really intense time of mothering or that really intense time, whether it be in business or like you say, running a team, when is it then your time to actually soften into the feminine and have an orgasm? And it doesn't necessarily mean, in bed, just orgasm of life. Yeah. When do you allow that to happen? It just becomes like you're always on, like the drill sergeant.
Totally. I love that you said the orgasm of life, because I think, it's obviously your spiritual yogi teachings, because it's often a thing that I think people miss. I think they miss even in the pop culture of what, sex in Tantra has been made to be the whole thing, but really in the scheme of what Tantra is a spiritual practice, it's like 2%. Really, the foundations of Tantra are about exactly what you said. How do I be a yes to life? Not like spend all day going, nope, 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 and walling and shutting down and shoving off and battling against, and then go, okay, yes, but only to you. You constantly are no to life. Like, life is what is happening in the moment. So if I consider that, how do I, instead of holding so much tension in my body, how could I relax back enough that I could let life happen and flow through me, and that I could flow with that and find ecstasy there, that I could make love to life as it happens? Like, that's really what the ultimate underpinnings of Tantra are. But we're probably getting too spiritual for what this podcast is supposed to be.
But it is right. It is. And the most simplest way, when you're talking to it, I'm thinking even you can have a really orgasmic yoga class.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Because you are just allowing yourself to receive. And I often say, you're both yogis, and I often say I love to go to a yoga class and receive. I love to teach, but it's like I'm driving the car. I like to go and I get to be the passenger. Totally. And for me, that's almost like leaning into more of that, I guess, for me, how I would describe that femininity, not driving.
Yes, it's the receiving, right? So we have the energy that goes forward and we say penetrates the world, like leads, almost your energy is leaning outside of you forwards, and it's like go and do the list, the head, the next thing that, it's an action energy. There's a forward motion to it. Whereas feminine energy is a switch where your energy goes backwards. It sits at the back of your body on your spine, and it's like a magnetic vortex pulling life through you and out wide, pulling in everything that is a, you know, energetic match for you, that receiving in and wide rather than forwards and out. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that is such a beautiful description. And that's where, when you're saying that in and comes through and out your body, that's then that magnetism.
Yes, exactly.
Because it's that emanates. Then I got a beautiful visual then of that emanating out, because you're receiving and then transmuting in the beauty.
Yes. And it's where fulfillment comes from, right? Like, because you're filling up, you're not trying to get, like, push out of your body, or the masculine practices of arguably yoga and also meditation classically are to empty, to get out of the body, to remove the tension, to cool down emotions, right? Like this sense of cosmos connection rather than body feeling and emotionality connection. They're two completely different practices. So yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that.
You went all beautiful places, Julie, and I loved it. Now, I do want to talk about, because you, as I mentioned in my email, and I gave you the lowdown, but I love I guess the body acceptance and work of the woman, where, and you know, I've been quite open with my audience about my own journey of perhaps not accepting my own body through the past and arriving now. And I know that a lot of women through their body acceptance journey, as their body changes as a mother and as their body changes, I'm now menopause, you know, as the body changes, do you see that with the work that you do with women, do you see that as sometimes a barrier stepping into their feminine when they don't necessarily accept their beautiful bodies? Do you ever experience that with your clients? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yes. Can I just clarify, you want to have a conversation around how women feel about their bodies and how they might work towards a deeper connection with their bodies?
Yes. Thank you, Julie. You said that so eloquently. Yes.
No, I just wanted to check I took you on the right path. Yes, I noticed that everywhere. And I noticed that in my own journey. Like, I mean, who doesn't? I always think the most beautiful thing we can do is recognize that the relationship we have with our body is a relationship, like any relationship. And I mean, I've been in my intimate relationship for 22 years now. Well, in 22 years, it's not one of pure ecstasy and light. It looks like seasons of like, oh my God, you're delicious. I want to devour you. And fucking, I hate you. What are you doing here? Get away from me. And I don't know who you are. Like, what? And then, okay, you're actually really fun and I really like you. Let's hang out. And then get away from me. I need to be alone. And our body is exactly the same. It's a relationship. So you have not failed at loving your body or having acceptance of your body if today you're struggling with it, or today you're in repulsion, or today you don't understand it, or today you're struggling to be around it. It is no different to any other relationship. It's going to look like a relationship looks, which is the most successful relationships have both support and challenge, because that's where the greatest growth point is for humanity, for development. If we have too much support or too much challenge, where our growth is stunted. So we always have this beautiful balance of both. That's what the equilibrium is, right? That's what we ultimately all are looking for. So the relationship that we have with our body is the same. And as soon as I realized that, and you know, the book that I really would recommend for that is The Joyous Body by Dr. Pinkola Estes. So, you know, the author of Women Who Run with the Wolves. Oh, and if you can get her book on Audible, it's just one of the most magnificent experiences to have that matriarch talk to your soul. It is just so wonderful. And what I loved out of her whole resonance was this idea that the body is the eternal consort. It's not about finding Prince Charming or anything. It's about the fact that this body sat here through everything with you. It was your companion. Even when you were hating it and berating it and punishing it, it just sat there taking it, waiting for you to return back to love. And I just like, when that landed for me, it kind of broke my heart. And I can remember having this like, almost come to Jesus moment on the ground as I just cried and said, thank you to my body. Thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for being there. Thank you for all of that. So I really love the idea that we can hold relationship, which means I'm not in a successful or unsuccessful relationship based on whether I'm loving myself today or not. But instead, it looks like all relationships, and that's okay. That I can learn to hold paradox, and I can learn to find a path home to you because I know you're always waiting for me. So I found that deeply comforting and deeply soothing. At the same time as I think equally healing is learning or really seriously looking at how you have been harmed by the patriarchy and by the male gaze. And that we still carry significant echoes of that in our bodies and in our minds and in the world today. And as soon as you see that system, you can't unsee it. And you can choose to continue that, or you can choose to exit that system. So what is it like to let go of performance and what my body is supposed to be or look like or do for male pleasure versus what is it when I bring my pleasure and female pleasure centric to any experience, including how I dress and how I feel and how I choose to be and how I am in sex and intimacy, that has nothing to do with performance and doing something even though I'm not feeling it. Versus what if I put feeling first and relaxation first and my pleasure first and let it flow from there? What happens if I have a different relationship to my body that's not about male gaze, that's not about what it's doing, that's not about how it looks based on something that I didn't design or choose not to participate in? What does it look like to have a relationship with my body that's about how it feels and the exquisite joy and pleasure that it brings me? And I would say this is also where it's worth considering just entering that feminine art of adornment, which is kind of where we started our conversation, is what is it like to go, this is a temple? And we like to throw that around in our culture, but do we really spend time on it? Like if I was going to pray at the goddess temple of whoever, it's going to be really different, the temple that I enter for the goddess Kali than the temple that I'm going to enter for the goddess Lakshmi. They're going to be two completely different temples that have completely different adornments that I will feel in resonance completely different when I stand at either one of those goddesses' feet. What foods would I bring Goddess Kali? What colors? What scarves? What scents? Like, how would I adorn and honor and bring honoring to the temple or the goddess statue of Kali so that I can be in resonance with her fire and her knowingness of the time to let go and her courage? Very different to how the feet and the temple of Lakshmi, a goddess of milk and abundance, and the offerings I would bring to her, very different. Yeah. And you are a temple. You are a goddess. Yes, you are a multifaceted goddess. So today you might want to dress as Kali and honor and incarnate her expression in the world. Let it be seen, let it be known, let it be announced through your energy. Yes. And tomorrow I might want to be Lakshmi and full of bosom and, love that could feed the world. And there's no lack and scarcity. It's all abundant, and I'll drip with gold and, walk as though I was walking on an ocean of milk. Like the art of adornment. So instead of trying to go, body, I hate how you're blah, blah, blah today, instead going, wow, okay, you're struggling today. I just need to spend a little minute with you, which is what I would do for any of my kids. What is it that you really need today? How is it that you want to feel? Could we really be dark and dank and dress, in honor of Kali? Or I'm feeling like Kali, but I really want to feel like Lakshmi. Can I dress for Lakshmi? Because ultimately, the way that you adorn changes your energy. And when you change your energy, you change all of the interactions that you are available for and have in your day, and you change your life. So what is it to prioritize your art of adornment and find a pathway, find a bridge to loving your body, rather than accepting that how you feel right now in this moment is a truth. It's not the truth, it's a truth. And how could I help myself through that? Does it change how I feel about my hips when I wear something that really celebrates them? Does it change how I feel about myself when I wear something that really celebrates and honors my heart? Like, just spending a minute on the exquisite sensitivity that you have to sensuality because of your feminine connection, and considering that you could change your day by just spending 10 minutes with yourself and change the relationship you have with your body.
That is so beautiful. You are right. That was another beautiful light bulb moment for me. We are in a relationship. And just like we are in a relationship with someone else, and even when you describe, being in the same intimate part for 22 years, and some days we love them, some days they give us the shits, some days we think they're cute and funny, and that's relationship. We are in relationship with our body. There are some days that we walk past the mirror and go, oh, I'm having a really good hair day. And then other days we don't. Just like we would look at our partner, or we would look at someone else in our life that we're in relationship with and say good hair day, bad hair day. But I think for me, I've taken it so personal all of these years. Taken it to the relationship too personal. I haven't been enough in that adorning place which you speak of, which is just gorgeous. And like you say, the body's a temple, but do we really treat it like the temple? We might say it, but do we, and how do we? And there's some great little pointers about just spending that 10 minutes with your beautiful body that is the temple, whether she's in Lakshmi energy, Kali energy, whatever energy she's in, meet her where she's at that day.
Yeah. Or decide, okay, I'm feeling that, but I actually really want to feel that. Let me dress for how I want to feel rather than how I am feeling, because adornment just turns the dial up on your energy. So if you're in a real funk and you dress in that funk, you're just turning the dial up on their funk. Now, some days that's going to be very seductive to you, and who doesn't want to wallow in some trackies and, sit on the couch and just think, oh, this is just divine. But don't do that and turn the dial up on that and then really feel unfulfilled in that. Because if that's where you're at, you actually haven't made the right choice for yourself. And you can choose to change your energy by changing your habitat.
Yeah. Or stay in that and then expect a different result.
Yes, exactly.
That's the key, isn't it? Going, well, I cannot sit in this if I want a different result. So now I need to match that energy so I can keep moving. And that's the thing, relationship, it's always in flux and flow. It's always moving, and it's choosing to keep that energy moving.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
It totally is, particularly in long-term relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. One last thing, Julie, if you were to give some advice or pearls of wisdom, if you have been in a long-term relationship, what is a tip to a woman who is potentially feeling she's a little too much in her masculine, and perhaps she can feel in the relationship, but both of them are perhaps showing up in their masculine because we've got a to-do list and we're mothering and working and perhaps running businesses? What would be just a little small piece of advice that she could perhaps choose to do to shift that energy to move more into her feminine?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would ask you how you want to feel. So if you want to feel desirable, then dress for desire. Move your day by asking in moments throughout your day, what would desire choose to right now in this moment? So that you're constantly hitting up the dial or practicing the energy that you want to incarnate, right? We've got to actually have touch points on that before it becomes something that we are masterful at and we can simply embody or turn on like that. So I've got to have practice points and touch points on the aspect of me that is feeling or is sexy or is desirable. And am I consciously choosing to bring that forwards, lead with that, incarnate that, let that move me through the day? Because I guarantee the day where you ask yourself that and you dress for desire and you find yourself desirable. If you do not find yourself desirable, it's very hard for someone else to, or that you outsource your self-worth to someone else giving you something that you're not giving yourself. It's also very dangerous territory. So I would say, what do you want to feel by the end of today or the end of this week? Then how do you build in a self-discipline? And it is self-discipline. I could choose to be a robot. I could choose to do this list. I could choose to keep myself very busy. I could choose to not care. I could choose to put everything above my body, my relationship. Or I could say, I really want desire. Great. So how do you orient a life around desire? Around feeling desirable, around finding yourself so intoxicatingly funny and delicious and beautiful? Because that's where it's at, right? It's got to be you first. If you don't find yourself something, it's really hard to see that reflected.
Great little tip. And is asking yourself, how do you want to feel? And then how do I emanate that? Otherwise, the alternative is just to keep choosing to do all the things and potentially numb. That's what you feel. Numb.
Exactly.
None of that.
You practice numbing all day. That's what you're going to be really good at, feeling nothing.
Yeah.
It's just a
Don't
practice.
know how I want to feel. Yeah, it's just a practice. And it's just choosing what your practice is.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. So the question is, whoever's listening, my darlings, the question is, how do you want to feel? And then how do you turn the dial up on that? And if you want to feel that, you've got to be that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Now, Julie, I did want to ask you if anyone's listening and would love to work with you, what have you got? I did actually want to share also your beautiful podcast too, Nourishing the Mother, that you co-host. That is a beautiful podcast. And you have just your latest one released, I think, was it this morning or yesterday morning? I'm losing, maybe today it was, about your beautiful 18-year-old, a mummy of 4, and you now have an 18-year-old in the house. And that podcast is gorgeous. So I'll put your podcast in the show notes. And yes, how can people work with you? Have you got a course, or have you got something coming up? What
Look,
have you
I've got lots of things
share.
going on. Yeah. So basically I have 3 different types of people that I work with. That's going to be solo honeybees. So women who just want to do their own feminine, work out what's going on for them. I work with couples and I work with practitioners. So depending on where you fit in that, there is something for you. But if where you're at is I want to understand the feminine and the masculine for myself, and I then want to choose what I want to do with that, how I awaken it in me, how I bring more of me alive, how I create a deeper sense of fulfillment in myself and my life and my relationship, then I would say definitely my book. And then from there would be if you head to julietenner.love/scene. I have a free little mini course there called Seen, Felt, Known, which is everything the feminine wants. You want to be seen, you want to be known, you want to be felt, you want to be met. It's a beautiful little freebie that I loved doing, and still I think it has profound, just huge shifts in there. So if that's where you're at, I would say head there to /scene and do that mini course, and you will get some absolute gold out of that.
Thank you, Julie. That is very generous to have a little free taking, and definitely your book. So I'll put all of the links in the show notes. So head over and check out Julie. But Julie, I want to say thank you so much. Absolute honor and pleasure to chat with you today. I have loved our gorgeous conversation and learnt lots myself, which is always great. So thanks, Julie. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Emma.
March 2025 Wholehearted Retreats are returning to India. Yes, that's right. Yogi Louie and I are taking another journey to this beautiful motherland, and this is an invitation for you to join us. We travel through the Golden Triangle. We visit the amazing Jaipur. We then go on to Agra, to Rishikesh, and we come in and out of Delhi, the capital of India. Such a fabulous country. The sights and sounds, the sensations are truly awe-inspiring. This is not just a trip to India. We also do some beautiful yoga, some personal development workshops. It really is a whole-rounded trip of personal growth, transformation, adventure, joy. If you love a good belly laugh, you are with like-minded women who love life and love to explore. So yes, this is your invitation, my friend. Come to India, come and join us. It will be the trip of a lifetime.